Welcome to Girl Call Me with Tanya,
And Jessica,
the podcast where Black women's voices shine.
come for the empowerment and storytelling and stay for the sisterhood.
Girl Call Me with Tanya and Jessica's new episodes every Wednesday, everywhere you get podcasts.
Head over to girlcallme.com to find out all the ways we can continue the conversation together.
It's Girl Call Me Wednesday, girl. What's up? Hey.
We're back. We're back and bad as ever.
We are bad as ever. I want you to tell everybody how many times I texted you, girl, call me.
This week?
Yes.
Or today?
Just this week. We have, 20 days, I think, to the election.
Look.
I need this to be over.
I don't. I got my mail-in ballot.
I got mine too.
My election day is about to be
tomorrow.
Today.
Tonight.
Yeah.
It's about to be tonight. At some point, we have to talk about your lovely vacation you're taking, your getaway during to Asia during what may be the whole U.S. on fire. But first of all, I want to just thank everyone for last week commenting and all the texts and the messages we received on folks reminiscing about their junior high days.
Yeah. Shout out to Carrie Harvey, who you all remember from season 1. I was having a little Instagram convo with her. I was talking about your blazer.
Okay, first of all, those shoulder pads, those shoulder pads were on fire.
What I said to Carrie is I was like, why? I think Danielle Pinnock said this once on her Instagram, like, why did any kids of size have to be dressed like little businesswomen?
You know what? It is so crazy. When I saw that picture, I was like, why? In my high school picture, did I decide?
Was I in a blazer?
Was I in a blazer? And I think lime green was definitely on trend during that time.
Sure.
But it was a combo of like, I was going to be culture club, but then I'm edgy, but yet I'm going to be business. And somewhere I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to take over the world, y'all.
Not the business suit. Everyone has that. If you were a plus size kid or a kid of size, I know you got a picture of you in something with shoulder pads or a blazer. Probably because you were ordering back then. They're like your parents are probably ordering stuff from the catalogs from you.
What catalog
and once
was
you got
it?
out of Spiegel, my mom's was Spiegel.
Probably Sears, Spiegel, JCPenney, one of those.
And once you got out of size, whatever it was as a kid, you had to go up to those misses, and Mrs. was going to get you in a blazer.
Right. And it's supposedly the shoulder pads was supposed to balance you out. There was some theory, I think, that it was
not when you're 12.
Oh my God, shoulder pad. Do we have to do a whole thing on clothing and shoulder pads of the 90s?
And I know your makeup. I know your eyeshadow was probably CoverGirl.
It might have been, but it was a lot.
It was probably CoverGirl.
It was a lot
from the Save On or the
Save On drugs, because that's where I like my ice cream cones. Does everybody remember Rite Aid's ice cream cones or Save On?
Oh yeah.
Oh, they had the best.
Long's drugs.
They had the best ice cream. But all of that, and I will say, shout out to Angel and Jason, who listened to the episode of both
Ride or Die.
Ride or Die still, how many years later?
Literally, Ride almost dies.
Almost died. I have the card. I have the picture. So, that all got us thinking about friendships. And for me, my girlfriends and my friends have been basically like a lifeline for me. And so we were like, you know what? We're going to talk about friendships because let's keep that fun conversation going, because I think we can all say in some ways, whether it's friends back in the day or friends you still have, I know many of us have stories about our friends, particularly Black women.
Right. And we know that dozens of studies have shown that people who have satisfying relationships with friends and a community of friends are happier, have fewer health problems, and live longer.
It's facts.
That's the only reason I keep mine around.
I'm sure they're all thrilled by hearing this.
It's really just it's self-serving. It's self-care.
It's to keep you alive. But So I was thinking about what does a true friend mean? And particularly over time, I think friendships have changed. I mean, I joked, we talked about, friends used to just hold my books. And maybe in some ways, when you're young, you don't really value them as much. You know, I think there are so many friends that I was like, okay, you'll be here, or we take them for granted. But I think as I've gotten older, I think my friendships have become more and more important. And I think they've also become a little bit slimmer. The
Mm.
list, because I'm like, I mean, I would say that everyone thinks they're my best friend. That's just, I just,
You're like my husband.
they're
My husband's that way. All these people like and that used to drive me crazy when we first started dating. I was like, I was almost well, let's not say almost. I was jealous because I was like, who are all these people who think they're your best friends? Like I've had enough of these people. And then I now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, those people. That's just how he rolls.
right.
Everybody thinks because you yeah,
And I collect
and
people,
they don't
and
know
I love to
nothing.
collect people, whether it's jobs or groups or whatever. I have people that I probably met at a job in the 90s, and they still roll with me, and we probably went to the mall last week. I'm just facts. But for you, how has friendships evolved for you over time?
Yeah. Once again, you and I are like
Opposite.
totally opposite on this. I think that I don't remember a time in my life that friendships wasn't and probably top priority for me.
Okay.
I have just sustained myself
Mm,
through the love of friends and friendships. So yeah, from my earliest age to now, I yeah, I just don't. I cannot imagine my life without friendships. It's just who I am. I pour myself into relationships and I value deep relationships with people. I think where it's gotten challenging as I've gotten older is in the past, that was often like sustained through frequency,
mm,
right? Like being on the phone with people all the time or
right.
seeing people all the
All day.
time. And I think just as life has happened, that's not there anymore. But so I've kind of had to adjust. But yeah, for me, I have, like I said in the last episode, I have acquaintances for sure, and then I have deep, deep people who are my friends, and I don't have a lot of the in between stuff because if you're my friend, I'm gonna pour into you,
Mm.
and I have high expectations. You're gonna do the same for me.
I love that pour into you. 'Cause I think so
Mhm.
many times we don't pour into our friends. We don't, we take
Mhm.
them for granted. We don't necessarily, but when you say pour into them, what are some things that you do for your friends when you're saying pouring into them?
I think that I am very I think a lot about what people need
Mm,
based on what they say that they need. And I think a lot that looks like, the conversations I have with one friend are very different than a conversation that I have another friend because I think about what they need. And that's why transactional relationships are kind of really hard for me or when a relationship shifts into that place because I individualize a lot of things. So for me pouring into someone really looks like being intentional about a conversation with someone, where they are, who they are,
mhm.
what moves them, what excites them, what they need at a certain time, and what I think that I can uniquely provide for them because you can't be everything to
Mm,
everybody. And there's certain friends that I know who I am to them and what I can provide and maybe what they don't need, what they get from their spouse, what they get
yeah,
from their girlfriends who, they have kids at the same age, right? So I really try to think about what is unique that I can provide to a friend? And I honestly look for the same thing when I think about people and what they can provide to me.
yeah. Yeah, I was saying this a little bit before, how, things have shifted for me when it comes to my friendships. I think that I used to just surround myself like Jason. I mean, I would be rolling deep. and I would roll into a party and I'd be like, "Hey, girl," and it just be
You're hosting the
right, I
party,
was hosting the party. Everyone would come. I loved
taking names at the front, checking
listen,
the
who are
guest
you,
list.
girl? Oh, you're right. And I would then just love mixing people. My best friend was always like, "Why you love to mix?" I love to see how people interact and who connects who. And now they're friends, and I'm like, good. And I'm like, so because but I think over time, I'm a little older now. I think
I ain't got time for
I
that.
got time for that. I got a job. I got a job.
Right.
And so this,
Black job.
I definitely a black job because it's a lot of work. But I think that I those people know I love them and I'm still going to be connected. But I would say that my group of which that I'm actively engaged with daily, 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 I think is very small. But those people are like I'm the loyalist. I'm a ride with you and I hope that we bury bodies together if that we need to. That's the
Oh my
expectation.
god.
That my
Girl,
my best friend. I always tell her, and I've talked about her a few times, and we may have her on the show, even though she don't know she may get on the show. But I said, "Were you ready?"
actually, pause. I feel like if we do get her on the
Yeah,
show, you're not on the show, and then it's me
you and her.
interviewing her, and then we could switch, and we could have
This
this
might be
be a
fun.
double,
Could be fun.
two-parter, but yeah, I feel like I have a lot of
You have
questions, okay?
you just need her. You don't need the
I have
drama
a
of
lot of
me.
questions.
So it's funny. I've often told her that we need to be buried. You need to be willing to bury bodies with me. And she's like, I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
I can't be caught up. You want me to lose?
See?
You want me to lose
Look,
my livelihood over your shenanigans?
let me tell you, this is so funny that you say this. My best friend sent me that text, like, a couple weeks ago, and he said something like, I don't know if he said bury bodies, but he said something crazy like that, and I was like, "I don't know that we need to go that
You
far."
never know.
Like, I and this is you're just like him.
You
Crazy.
just never know. But
Crazy.
that's how like and I know like listen, I know she will. And I know a lot of people who I would call and I would do the same for them. But I think that to have relationships and she and I have been best friends for 30 years. To have relationships that are sustained over time, they do
Yeah.
go through different there's been times in which she was like, "I'm not fooling with you right now because you acted crazy." There've been times that
Mhm.
she's wanted to fire me. I think she's been wanting to fire me for 30 years and somehow it has not happened, but she's threatened it.
Or maybe she has fired
Maybe
you and
I
you just
just don't
won't
know.
take.
That's what Jen said. She goes,
Right.
"Maybe she fired you a while ago." But
Yeah.
I think friendships take on different forms, and I think
Yeah.
we change in how we view friendships.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I seek connection at, like, that soul level.
Mm,
So for me, that is different at different stages of your life, though, but I think, like, at now in my life is yeah, it looks different and it changes. You're right, it changes. But, I think that it so here's a question for you.
yeah.
What when you think about friendship with Black women
Mm,
in particular, you think about, how do you what makes those friendships really strong as where you are in life now?
yeah.
What makes those relationships really strong, and how do you lean on those maybe differently than you do with some of your other friendships?
I think the understanding is different. And I'm not saying,
Mm,
listen, I have friends all, I'm a we are the world kind of girl. But we do, we are the world. We are. I love it. But I think those who share my life experiences, who, when they're going to that job, understand what it takes to make it through that day and understand that when we're walking through the world, whew, the weight is the weight is heavy. It becomes a
right.
I feel like there's a deepening of the relationship because
Mm,
when they call me and they're like, "Girl, I'm knowing what," and they're like struggling, and when I call them, it's just a different level and it's a different conversation.
right.
What about you?
Yeah. I'm gonna shout out my girlfriend, one of my best friends, Candace, who's a
Can
loyal
Hey,
listener. Hey,
Candace.
Candace. She'll be very happy about the shout out.
Mhm.
But she and I were on a text thread with we were college roommates for 2 years, and then we have two of our other girlfriends, Sway and Talaya, and we were all roommates our senior year of college, and we used to fancy ourselves the cast from Girlfriends. I was Joan, obviously.
Obviously.
But we were talking about just it went from friends to sisters
Mm.
fast. And I think that that is what is so special
Mhm.
about that relationship.
Yes.
I think we have Candace always jokes that my goddaughter, who's we're all godmothers of Candace's daughter, Kennedy, and she always jokes that she literally is like a little piece of all of us. We live together, and it's a sisterhood that's different, right? It's a sisterhood that you're doing each other's hair. Sway had me straightening her hair with a hot comb in our college kitchen. It's just it's a different
Nobody would
type
trust
of
me with
in
that, but it's fine because they would
girl.
think I burn them.
I
They
had
would be like, "Oh, you're burning
and
me."
look,
Mhm.
and this was days where I used to have a relaxer and a flat iron, so
Oh,
I didn't
Lord,
even
you were
know
doing too
anything about a
much.
hot comb. And she said, "You come over here and you're gonna
That
learn."
creamy
And she
crack.
put that thing and you're gonna learn on her head. But I think that that's the thing. There's an intimacy there
Mm,
that was so comforting. And it not was, it is comforting. We've gone through a lot together. And yeah, that sister love is just something that cannot be
yeah.
it's not better or worse than anything else, but there's just nothing that can compare
No,
to it, honestly.
no. And, you know, over time, and that those friendships and those sisterhood, it changes as you go through different stages in your life, whether it's the loss of a family member or it's
Mhm.
illness or it's some those things are those relationships just are solid.
Yeah.
But how
Yeah.
so on that, how have you been able, because I know it's hard for me. The busier I get, the more that I have in my life, the more like stress. How are you able to keep those relationships going and tight?
Oof, as a, recovering people pleaser, this is very
Are we
hard for me
recovered? I'm
because
just curious.
I said
Oh yeah,
recovering,
that's true. You're active. Active.
act actively, recovering. I it's really hard for me for a long time because I like those deep relationships. I got to a point in my life in my late 20s where I felt like I was doing everything for everybody because I didn't want to say no because I
Mhm.
didn't want that to be a reflection of how I felt about our friendship, right? Then I moved to New York, and with most of my friends here in Southern California, that helped me a lot get over that part, get over the like transactional part of relationships, and kind of forced me to recognize that showing up at someone's baby shower is not what makes you a lifelong friend,
No.
right? It's showing up when they need you, it's being
Mm.
able to call them, it's letting people know when you're thinking about them. And so for me, as I've gotten older, it's really and this is honest, like I think a lot about each friendship and what I get from each friendship and why it's so uniquely special to me. And I try to focus on doing things that strengthen that,
Mm.
right? And so that's not frequency for some people.
Yeah.
Like texting all the time or getting on the phone all the time, not only does it not fit into my life or other people's lives, it wasn't deepening the relationship.
Right.
I just was fortunate enough to see one of my girlfriends in Chicago, and I would have thought, like, you would have thought we saw each other I don't know, 2 weeks
Last week,
ago, and we were
right?
joking, and I was like, "Wait a second." Her son came walking in, he's, like, 10 years old, and I'm like, "Well, he wasn't born yet, so I guess it's been longer than that." But we don't need that in our
Right.
relationship because our relationship is built on something very different. So, I guess that's a long way of saying that as I've grown up, I've really taken inventory of each friendship I have and figuring out what do I need to make sure that that friendship continues to grow. And it's not the same for everybody, and it doesn't I do not confuse motion with progress.
Mm.
Like, it's not just doing things and being
Girl,
somewhere.
girl, that was good. Like, I feel like that motion I do not confuse motion with progress.
Look,
Sister, that's a T-shirt. And we about to sell that. It will be
I
on
didn't make
sale.
that up.
I know, but it's
I didn't
amazing.
make that
I
up,
love
but
that. I felt that to my bones.
yeah.
I felt that. Because, girl, I be motioning, I be moving, I be
I know what you
butterflying.
do. You've been talk I was gonna say you've been butterflying in the sky.
Butterfly in the sky. I am serious. And I just think, but I think I've learned. I mean, there was a time in which I thought I needed to connect and see you and see you and see you and talk to you. And
Mm,
without all
mhm.
of that movement and motion, that I couldn't sustain relationships. And then
Right,
honestly, when you have really good relationships and really good friends, and if you've had a deep relation, you don't need to have those daily conversations with people. And it's so funny. There are so many people that I'll get on the phone with, and it's just like you described. We have been, we're like, key, 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 key. And it's like 2 hours later, we're like, okay, I need to go
right,
back to doing whatever. Or we see
right.
each other, and it really just feels like there has been no time. But I
Yeah,
think as you mature and as you get older, you realize one, those relationships are quite valuable. And two, that it isn't about the quantity and the amount of spent time you're spending, but it's also the
right,
quality and
right.
what you're giving and supporting, how you're supporting each other.
And look, that may not be that's what works for me. And that's what brings me satisfaction in my relationships. Some people, look, you may be the kind of person that's like, I don't have time for depth and deep
Okay.
relationships, and I want to be friends with everybody and do whatever. But some people, like I was talking to one of my girlfriends the other day who was just sharing with me about kind of just her day-to-day life, and her kids are in school and they're playing on sports teams, and her life is a lot of time spent with people that she's not choosing to spend time with,
Right.
right? It's circumstantial. It's the kids' school, it's the kids' games, it's the kids' whatever. That's just her season, right? Like
Right.
that's what her life is, and she's, making friends with those people, and but it's not the same as maybe she would choose to do. I live a very different life, right? I don't have kids. I don't
Mm-mm.
You already know I've said I don't do things that I don't want to do. So I don't have to like go to things and force conversations. But I think there's a season for that in people's lives. But I do feel like if you have relationships, there's a lot of those relationships that'll come back around,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
I was thinking about people that, you're friends with, and then you go through a life thing
Yeah.
and maybe you don't talk to them. And then suddenly you're on the other side of it, and now, you're able to pick that relationship back up again. Those are beautiful friendships too.
Yeah. It's interesting. We've talked a lot about those beautiful friendships and those great times. But what about that bridge when things don't always go perfect and you have to either take a break or take a moment? How do you deal with a close friend that you have a disagreement with?
Look, I think there is, how I deal with it now versus how I dealt with it when I was younger, probably two different things. I think um now I'm like sometimes people need a moment. That's my husband
Mm.
speaking, by the way, too. That
He gives
is
people moments. He's a he'll
no, he tells me to give people moments.
Oh.
He's not giving he's more of just like, look, sometimes like you it's the you can't be everything. It's going back to what I said before. You can't be everything for everybody. And there's certain times in people's life where you may not offer something that is right for them, right? And I think it's being honest and it's
Right.
not forcing the issue. I think when I was younger, I forced the issue. Like, why don't we something happened this week? Why don't we feel as close? Why aren't we talking as much? You're not doing this. And I know,
You
look, I have
stressing me.
girlfriends
That
that
sounds
probably
stressful.
listening. Right, because I told you I have high expectations, and it's sometimes kind of crazy. But so I know I probably have a girlfriend listening to this who's like, "Yes, you did this." Because I feel like yeah, I don't know. Like there's a mm, I don't know what it is, but either way, I felt like I had high expectations for people, and I had a really hard time when I felt like something wasn't going the way that
Mm,
I thought it should be
mhm,
going, right? And now I think I'm able to see, like, if someone says something to me about something's not working or some was offended, like, I'm open to apologizing to things. I'm open to also saying, we don't need to we can take some space. Like,
mhm.
also, if I'm too much right now, or if you don't wanna talk about the type of things I wanna talk about, that's okay. You know, I'm not at the age where I'm like, we're not gonna be friends anymore." That's I don't have the time for that.
It's funny because, I could do a disappearing act
Right.
because
Oh my god,
I'm who
that's
did it's
hilarious.
like, "Whoop, whoop,
Y
where'd she go?" Because I used
I
to
wish I could.
I think I have evolved. I think
You
I
did say that in, like, a last episode or the episode before or something. You're like, "Yeah, we talked about forgiveness," and you were like, "Oh, yeah,
mm, mm,
I'm hard.
it's hard.
I'm hard pressed to forgive.
It's hard. It's
I will forgive, but I will not forget."
and it
That's
could
what you said, I think.
yeah, I don't. And I could be like cool with you if you call me, you need something, I would give it. But if you cross me, I'm just like, and I say cross, right? That's harsh, right?
Yeah, look at you.
I'm
I was gonna say just like that, like, who okay, you're talking burying bodies and crossing you, like, I need to
yeah,
understand
I hope I don't get called
what's
by the
happening in
authorities aren't calling. But I
well,
think
what's happening in your life, girl? Like,
you
this sounds
never know. Remember,
severe.
I like
This
Lifetime.
sounds this I was just gonna say, this sounds like a BET
It
show.
could be
Like, "If you double cross me."
I'm taking you. But it's funny because there was a time in which I'd just be like, I'd be moonwalk out, and be like crickets. But I have learned as I've gotten older that everybody makes mistakes.
Girl, thank God we weren't friends, by the way, and, like,
What?
when I was, like, 20 and you were 30, because 'cause you'd be moonwalking, and then I'd be chasing you
Oh
like,
God.
"No, no, tell me why. Tell me why we
I'd
can't
be
be
like,
friends.
girl, they
What's going on?
click
What are you feeling like?" And you're, like, ghosting me.
disconnect. Blocked.
Right.
And so
And I'm, like, hungry for your friendship, and you're like, "What friendship?
like yeah.
It's over."
But then there has been moments in which I've given people too much grace, in which they have said something or disrespected me, and I'm like, and then my best friend's like, "You need to cut them," and I'm like, "No, but." So there's a part of me that's an abandoned girl, little girl, and I need to
Mm,
cling on and hold on to some people, and then there's another part of me that be like, I'm done." And I think it's just, and no one ever can predict what it is
which Tanya gonna
that
get.
gets me to cut you or be done with you. And sometimes
Right.
it's been silly things in my mind. I think I should have, and then I'm like regretting it. And you hear him 5 years later, you're like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, girl, how you doing?" You're like, "This heifer thing called me, and like, I forgive you for whatever you did." And they're like, but I think that I think as we get older, there was some article recently. Friendships are hard. Friendships are hard to let
Oh,
go of
yeah.
at this stage of your life.
Right.
Life is short. Life is short. So if you're holding on
Yeah.
to something about regarding someone and you won't let that shit go, I'm
Yeah.
like, you don't know, especially COVID. I think
No.
after COVID, you learned you had people you may have been mad at with. Next thing you know, they're in the hospital, and
Yeah.
you're like, damn, I didn't get a chance to deal with that or kind of talk to or
Right.
tell them that I actually really love them.
Yeah. Losing a friend changes it changes if losing a friend doesn't change your perspective, I don't know what to tell you. I think that is I pick up the phone now and I text people just to say I'm thinking about
Mm,
you when I'm thinking about them. And like I've been very intentional about doing that. Like if it came across your mind, just do it. In the past, I would have felt like I had to like have something bigger to say or talk about or whatever, but after you lose somebody, I just say it in the moment now. Yeah, exactly. Like, thinking of you. We don't need to have a conversation. We don't need to, like you said, like bury the hatchet with whatever
Mhm.
is going on. But like if someone comes in your mind, tell them you're thinking about them. That's not even, yeah, that should never go away unless you like really stop talking to somebody
Yeah.
and like but yeah, if you think about someone, you should tell them.
Yeah, and there have been times I know if you were to interview my best friend, she may share some of those moments in which I was not my best self,
Right.
and I was a handful or something like that. She may say something like that, or
Something like that.
something like that, and she gave me grace. And so
Mm,
the level of grace that you expect from others, you should be giving it back. And I think we need to, at some point in our lives, and I think I'm probably at that place in my lives, my friends are my safe space
hmm.
and they provide so much more for me than they can even imagine
Yeah.
because from health to, and you know me, I'm gonna take you to the hospital if something's wrong with you, but I'm also going to, like, yeah, I will say most people are like, "We ain't gonna tell you if we have a doctor's appointment because you're gonna be like," but I really feel like it's so important at this point in my life to really make sure my friends are okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. For me it's more of like I'm going to hold your hand. Like,
Mhm.
and that is, as we get older though, there's unfortunately, there's more and more situations that come up in someone's life where you, you know, they could use you, whether it's parents passing away, whether it's job stuff, whether it's marriage stuff, whether it's health stuff, like there's a long list of things. I think like how do you deal with the guilt? Because for me, it's like I have a lot of very close friends, which means I have a lot of people who are going through something
Mm.
all the time. And I am an empath and
Mhm.
I will overextend myself. And
Mhm.
then I will end up, I'm an empath and an extrovert. So I will end up like
Burned.
emotionally bankrupt
Mhm.
on the
Burned
ground,
out.
being like, what happened? How did this happen? And so I have to monitor like always feeling like I'm showing up for people, but also being really honest about what's going to be too much for me and not just triggering too much, but just like from a load too much. Like what's just too heavy? Do you get guilt with that? Am I alone in this? Am
It's
I
funny.
crazy?
Dr. Jay Cherie, who we had on our show, said, "You cannot pour from an empty cup."
Yep.
And if you are so spent, and if you're giving so much that you're not giving yourself, taking care of yourself, you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you cannot really pour into other people and really be at the level that they may need during their hardest times. So I don't sit with guilt because I know that I'm doing and giving as much as I can.
Hmm.
And I think that, there are times that I probably like, ooh, I probably should have like turned that, maybe took got off the phone or did that, not went and did this or this and this. But I think that if you're sitting with guilt, is because you're not doing enough. But if you're doing enough,
Oh,
you should give yourself
I don't feel like that.
grace. You should give
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
the grace
Yeah.
that you deserve. And because that other person who you're giving to, they don't feel they probably feel like you're doing what you need to do to take care of them and support them.
Right. Yeah. So often it's your own
Their own thing.
expectations.
It's our own
But
thing.
I think but going back to what you said earlier, like in my opinion, real friendships are if the person does feel like you're not showing up, it's okay for them to say that, or it's okay for them to
Right.
request that you do show up. And you should be okay saying, like, hey, I hear you.
Mhm.
I can't right now.
Yes.
I don't have any more. Or you should be okay being like, "Hey, I hear you. Damn, that's on me." Like, I think that you should be able to say both of those. I think that the former, the "Hey, I just don't have any more to give,"
Mm.
is really hard for me
Mhm.
in particular. I feel like I've been in the last few months, I've been kind of in a space where like I just don't have any more to give. And that's because I got my own stuff going on, but that's because I'm supporting a lot of people in different ways that I is not really something I will share with other friends.
Right.
And so but I would be totally okay if a friend said to me, "Hey, I feel like you haven't been there for me." And I would feel totally comfortable in this moment, which is growth for me, to be able to say, "I don't have it."
Mm.
And I can't really, it's not my story to talk to you about why I can't, or it is my story to tell you why I can't, but it's not my story to tell you all the stuff on my plate. But what I can tell you is I promise you, if I had more, I would, and
Yeah.
right now I just don't. And that's growth for me, because
Right.
girl, I would make an excuse up
No, somewhat. Mhm.
before, and then like caught myself at a dinner not being able to like see straight and being like, yeah, it's fine, like let's go do this
Right.
and whatever. Like,
Meanwhile
meanwhile, yeah,
meanwhile, and I think if you're able to say that to a friend, and I think that I have heard her being so direct, but if you're able to say that to someone and they're able to receive that and
yeah,
go, "I hope I can help you, whatever you need," then that's a good friend.
yeah, and yeah,
And if
that
right,
what? That's what we should all like I mean, that's what I would love people to take away from this, including myself. Like, just think about what other people have on their
right,
plates. Like, before you're quick to be like, this person didn't show up for me, or this person didn't do this, or I can't believe,
yeah.
just like take a beat,
Take
right?
that beat
If that's out of character for someone, think about what may be going on,
and maybe
right?
ask, "Is something going on? Can I help you? I feel your
Right,
energy." Because if you're like, "I feel your," and
right,
sometimes I'll be like, "I feel your energy," and sometimes they're like, "You're just feeling too much. Sit down." Or sometimes, because I be
right.
feeling energies all the time. Or
Oh
or
my
they'll
God.
go, "Wow, how did you know?" It's so funny. There was
Right.
someone, it's like, "Wow, what?"
By the way, if you ever ask me that question and I do have too much on my plate, the like anyone who knows me, the typical Jessica response to that is my eyes just start watering up and I start crying.
Yes, I've
So
had people do that. I had someone.
that is my like
Right, and
that's
it was a coworker, and I think I was like, I got off the phone with them, and I thought, something's off, and so I called them back, teams them back. If you guys seen that, I'm the fan. I teams them back, and I said, are you okay? It was an hour later, and tears were
waterworks.
waterworks, and I was like, oh, okay. So, and then they're like, how did you
Right.
know? And I was just like, I just felt your energy. And I think that's
Yeah.
one way that an empath can really kind of help and support and heal. And she's like, I felt so healed by this conversation,
Yeah.
and that's how we should be using that. But I didn't take it on. And I think that
Right.
took a while. And I think I am there now. I'm not going to take it on and wear it.
Yeah. Right.
I just want to be there to support.
I love that. I love that because that's actually friendship, right? You can be there, and
Hmm.
that's, you're exactly right. That's the boundary I did not have in the past. Like, you can be there for someone
Hmm.
all the way through it.
Yeah.
Hold their hand through it. You don't have to take it on.
Hmm.
And there is a difference between
Yes.
taking it on and being there, providing the support in the right way that they need it, and being able to like let it go, right?
Yeah. So, some great takeaways. I feel like friendships are so special. And if you are lucky to have people in your life that you can call a best friend or a friend, you better love them and embrace them. But the other thing is, it's so important for you to make sure, and going back to Dr. Jay Cherie, that we're filling our own cups and taking care of ourselves. particularly when people are going through a lot and your friends are going through things, you have to be there for them, but you also have to make sure you're there for yourself.
Yeah. And I would say talked about this in our last episode, but spend more time with
Mm.
the people who are filling your cup
Yes.
than the people and then the people who aren't, right?
Yes.
And that's your decision, and that's
Mm.
okay. And that may change month to month. The people may change in that, but like it's okay. You get to make the decisions about
Mhm.
where you're spending time, which people you want pouring into you at which times and which people you don't. Like that's your
Yes,
decision.
and learn to dust your feet. Mm. Have you heard that phrase before? It must be
No,
I think
girl.
it's a Jamaican phrase. When you can
Probably.
dust your feet at the door, because sometimes you
Okay.
gotta just let them go. Did I take it a
So
t
which girl
did I take a turn?
I don't know what I was gonna say. I thought you were gonna say, did I take him to church?
Dust
Wait,
your
w-
feet, dust your feet.
what? So which girlfriend's character do you think you are?
If I knew all their names right now, I don't know all their
Oh God,
names. You got
yeah, Maya. If for anyone listening
oh,
who
you know
watches,
what?
girl,
Okay,
we
the
don't even
one with
have to.
what's the one with the curly hair?
I'm not actually. What do you
The
mean,
one with
Tracy
the
Ellis
Yes,
Ross?
I think I'm Tracy.
That's Joan.
Is that Joan though? But you think you're Joan.
You're not Joan.
Who am I?
I think you're more of a Maya. That high maintenance, high energy is
Wow. There's
reads Maya.
First of all, friends out there, high maintenance? I don't know. Are we agreeing? I don't think so. But maybe as my friends, y'all need to have sit me down. I don't always
Yep.
say I'm not
Oh,
you listen, I always say I am not high maintenance to anyone else but myself. I'm high maintenance and I am high maintenance for me, not other people.
listeners, listeners, I wish that I could tell you that we script out Tanya coming up with some wild thing at like the end of the podcast every time. Last time it was the mascot. In the time, but we did an episode where she started talking about how she doesn't drink on planes because she thinks she can land a
Yeah.
plane and the pilot's going to call on her.
It's true.
This is that moment in this episode. You saying you're not, in your words, I'm not high
Mm-mm.
maintenance. I'm high maintenance to myself
Yes.
is the most high maintenance thing you could ever say. It doesn't even make
Okay,
sense.
for our
I
listeners,
wouldn't be calling you high maintenance if you were high maintenance to me. Like if you like what?
I'm just gonna say, listeners, do you understand when you're like when you're we're
No.
does anyone else understand what I'm saying? You're high maintenance for you, but not other people. Like I'm
That's
not
what high maintenance
no, I'm
means.
not
You're
expecting
self-centered and high maintenance.
wow. This this friendship conversation took a dark turn.
I'm being honest. I told you I would.
Thank you so much for holding me accountable. I don't know if I
Wait,
wanted it.
you're not okay, so quickly, you're not high maintenance.
Other people, like for
What
Jen, like
what do you have Jen doing for you today?
she's putting up Halloween lights outside because it's almost that time of the year.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but
Yeah,
that's for the neighborhood
right.
kids, not for me.
That's not for me.
Not for
That's not
me.
yeah. That's actually for the community. That's the work we
Well,
do for the
on
community.
that high note, like, share, subscribe.
Wow. Yeah, I don't okay. Wow. We will, and in the comments, we're going to ask you to put which girlfriend character you are yourself, but also you can definitely chime in on where you think Tanya's at. Just, thoughts.
No, I don't know if
Would
I
love to
need. I don't
hear.
know if I need thoughts, but it's fine.
Does your best friend, does she listen to, I'm not calling her out on this, even though I've said everyone's name, but
She's listened to every episode. She actually
can I say her name?
You could say her first name, but you know what she says? She says she has learned so much about me from this podcast because there are some things that she
Okay.
fascinated her in her like, where did that
Okay. So
brain
Tammy, please in our comments, please comment on if you think Tanya's high maintenance or if you've ever if she's ever asked you something that would make her high maintenance, or is she really just high maintenance for herself?
Thank you. I need honest answers. Honest answers.
Like, subscribe, and tell the and no matter what you do, guys, tell your friends the truth. Hey, it's Jessica. Thanks for listening to Girl Call Me. If you have something to add or a story to share, come on over to Instagram or Facebook and join the conversation. Also, make sure you follow and subscribe Girl Call Me. You don't want to miss when we release new episodes. Thanks for listening.